Turns out she's got the key. Good evening, everyone. I'll wait till there's an announcement.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mantra Zone. Tonight we have a very special guest, Vaisheshika Das. Vaisheshika Das is a renowned spiritual guide, author, and entrepreneur with 5 decades of yoga practice. A student of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he transitioned from monkhood to married life, creating successful businesses and leading a vibrant yoga community. His talks blend ancient wisdom with practical insights for balanced living, reaching diverse audiences worldwide. Vaisheshika Das has spoken at corporations such as Google, Salesforce, and Intel, and universities teaching universal principles of personal and spiritual development. His mission is to make ancient yoga philosophy accessible and applicable to modern life. So please put your hands together for Vaisheshika Das.
Thank you very much. Would you all like to try a social experiment and maybe just move a little closer? Well, thank you for your warm introduction, and it's great to see everybody. Just this morning, I was listening to an audiobook of a professor from Brown University that I will be meeting next week for a discussion about the book that I wrote. And in his book, he's a cognitive psychologist, and he's talking about how the world's more complex than we imagine it to be. And any particular item that we encounter in the world is hard to explain. For instance, he gives the example of a toilet. He said many people, if you ask them how it works, they may say, oh, I know how it works, but then if you try to explain it, and he goes into detail, actually, in the preface explaining how it works. And it's pretty complicated, even though it's a simple item. And he said, what to speak of so many other machines or natural phenomena that we deal with constantly, and we know very little about it. However, somehow or other, we're able to move through the world and negotiate our way through. But he says that we're in ignorance about how ignorant we are, and that we're supported in many ways by those who are in our lives, and by memory that comes naturally in our own bodies, like our hands have memories how to do things. And we're helpless in many different ways that we don't even realize. This is what I've gleaned just from reading the first half of the first chapter, so that there's a lot more to it. But the premise I was considering relates to something that Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita, where he describes how the universe that we live in is made up of phenomena. Like in the 7th chapter of the Gita, Krishna describes this earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. He said these are categorically different from us because we're conscious beings. And even in empiric science, there's what's called the hard question of consciousness. And that's becoming more of a topic nowadays. For a long time, the idea of consciousness being different from matter was looked upon as being archaic. And at one point, there was a divorce from science and religion, let's say. Whereas for many years, they lived in concert with one another. And now there's a turn back to observe consciousness and see how it's different from matter. Well, that's something that's there in the Bhagavad Gita. One of the main topics is to understand our own consciousness and not just assume that we are our body. Krishna talks about that in the very beginning of the Gita, where he says to Arjuna, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kovaran yovaranjara tata dehan tara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. That he recommends that we be observant that the body's always changing, and we notice the changes because we're not changing as the observer. If we were changing along with the body, or we were the body, we wouldn't really even notice the contrast. And he says that there's a way of becoming what he calls dhira, or undisturbed by the changes of the world, by understanding our own consciousness. It's really the important study of one's life is to understand our own consciousness, or to understand that we are conscious, we're conscious beings. That's another point that Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita. We're not just part of an amorphous whole, and we don't have any distinct personality. He refutes that in the Bhagavad Gita, does Krishna, by saying that actually we're all individuals. And there's an expansion of this idea by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's came to teach the tenets of Bhakti Yoga. And he compared our existence to the particles of light, like photons. When you see light coming from the sun, there are individual units that emanate from the sun. But at the same time, there's the whole sun. So there's the part and the whole, the parts and the whole. And that's something Krishna very clearly says in the Bhagavad Gita, that we're fragmental parts of the complete whole. So we have the same quality, our consciousness, same quality as our source, the supreme consciousness. But it's minute. We're tiny little atoms of consciousness. But those atoms are so powerful that they animate this body. And all the feelings that course through our body are us experiencing our contact with matter. And for that, as what is your name, Prabhu? Christian? Arshan. Harshad. Harshad. Prabhu was talking about matrix-like connection we have to the world, in which there's a connecting point, and then although we're not really part of the world, we're somewhere else, we're experiencing it as a man, a woman, a cat, a dog, a plant, and so forth. And this is really what Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita. What is that connecting point? He calls it the ahankara. It's the point at which the conscious soul that's categorically different from matter then is able to experience the world. And when we're able to see the difference between ourselves and our consciousness, which can take place through introspection, it can take place, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, by various means, interestingly, by working without fruit of desire. It's amazing, because there's a way in which when we're attached to the fruits of our labor and the results that we're getting, we become more attached to the body and the mind. But when we work without desiring the fruit, although you get to keep what you need, but you don't consider anything to be yours and you do it out of service, then there's a way also you come to this perspective that I'm not the body. He names various ways we do that. The practice of Bhakti Yoga, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended, has a few elements that bring us to that state of pure consciousness. And in a poem that he wrote, actually he didn't even write it, it came out naturally as he was speaking, and the first parts of the poem say, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. he describes how when you take to the process of bhakti, especially by repeating the names of the Supreme, there's a whole science behind that. But the result is, he says, that you cleanse the mirror of your mind. The mind is decidedly material, but there's a way in which, when it's cloudy or dusty, we can't see ourselves properly. We see a distorted image of ourselves. And when the mind is clear, it becomes an instrument so that we can see ourselves and we can see our source also. And in that state, he says, our lives begin to prosper. Without that, there's a lot of struggle, and that struggle all comes from the impurity that has accumulated on the surface of the mind. So yoga across the board, today at noon when we had our program called Success Sadhana, we were talking a little bit about Patanjali Muni. Has anybody heard of Patanjali? He wrote the Yoga Sutras. One of his main points is that you have to still the mind to be able to see your higher self. And yoga in general, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in the 6th chapter, the mind can become the friend, is either our friend or an enemy. It works against us when it's impure. So one of the purifying ways, one of the purificatory processes is chanting. And it's also called Yuga Dharma, which is an interesting concept that we're not left alone in the universe to our own devices. There's always a system. I mean, just like you get something at the store, bring it home and open, there's some directions that go with it, right? Do you ever read the directions? Or you try to do it and then you get halfway through and just have to take it apart and say, all right, I'll try the directions. So one of the points that is made in these ancient wisdom literatures is take a little time to read the directions. It's not a random universe. So that's called a yuga. And then dharma means there's specific directions for those time periods through which you'll be most benefited by a process. So in the present yuga, which has a name, it's called Kali. Kali has some specific symptoms, and it's called the age of quarrel. People like to quarrel. Have you noticed that? Where did you notice that? Just about everywhere. And also, it was predicted at the beginning of the Yuga by sages who gathered at a forest named Naimisharanya that people would have shorter lifespans in this age, and that they would be quarrelsome and also very distracted. So it's a hard age. So there's a Yuga Dharma for this particular age of Kali. And that's given by the Yuga Avatar. There's an avatar that comes down in every age, and literally avatar means one who comes down. And the avatar gives the directions. Follow this particular process in this age and you'll be successful. You'll be able to reach your highest potential. So the Yuga Dharma, as was taught by the Yuga Avatar named Chaitanya, at the beginning, well, near the beginning of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga started 5,000 years ago, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came about 550 years ago, and he taught the Yuga Dharma, and he gave it in a statement. Actually, it's from the Brihat Naradiya Purana. It says, Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, 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 Gatiranyata. And what it basically says that in Kali, in this yuga, the means for success is by chanting. And what kind of chanting? There's kind of group chanting, and there's individual chanting. Both are very effective. So the individual chanting is called japa. Everyone say japa. Japa is a great relief from the world. I find it that way. And you give yourself a little permission to not do anything else except for be inward looking and focus your mind on transcendental sound. It's a relief because we're often distracted throughout our days, right? There are various ways that there's sound vibrations, duties to do, and even internally, the mind's always churning, trying to figure out solutions to problems, worrying about what might happen in the future. That happens, right? Sometimes, like all the time. So mantra, man means mind, and tra means to deliver. You can rise above that. And the Yuga Dharma involves chanting. You can chant privately. Generally, we do. I carry these with me. Set of chanting beads. There's 108 beads on my string of beads, circular. And then I keep it in a bag, put my finger out like that. And then I take some time every day to chant a certain number of rounds. That's why I have these beads on the outside. These are for counting how many rounds I chant each day. So every time I finish one, I pull a... It's kind of simple. No screen involved. I like that. Very tactile. You kind of feel like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Fingers are smart. And if you take a little time to sit or even pace and just repeat the mantra. A specific mantra was taught by Chaitanya 550 years ago. It was a Hare Krishna mantra. He got it from his guru. It goes Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You say it over and over again, and then if you make your mind one with the mantra and the mantra one with your mind, you become like that. And you can enter into a period of absorption in the transcendental sound. And from that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Cheto Darpana Marjana, the surface of your mind will become cleansed. And he also went on to say that it will relieve you from that burning sensation you get from being in the world. You know, that kind of overwhelming anxiety. You know what I'm talking about? Talked about today with Patanjali. Now I'm going to bring that up. It's too macabre. So I'll just bring up one of the poetical points that he made, Chaitanya made. He said, when you chant, it opens the white lotus of good fortune in your life. Here, try it. Put your hand like that. Imagine that's the white lotus of good fortune. Is that a good thing? What's your name? Huh? Mukund, is this a good thing? A white lotus of good fortune? Say yes. So, if somebody came up, gave you a flower, a beautiful flower, it was closed like this. What is it? It's the white lotus of good fortune. It's like, wow, thanks. I needed that. It's like, he said, when you chant, it opens. Now you can open. It opens the white lotus of good fortune in your life. It's poetical, but there's a way in which we really don't know where good fortune comes from generally. You can work 2 jobs, make a lot of money, but then, it doesn't really do it. Rich people always tell us, didn't quite satisfy me. There's more. There's so much more. There's something that comes from the spiritual level, so we have to have a spiritual process, and that's the chanting. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you want the white lotus of good fortune to open in your heart, in your life, then chant. And he said you'll also get knowledge from the process. Elusive knowledge, knowledge of the difference between my body and myself. There's many points, as I brought out in the beginning, in this world from this author that I'm hoping to connect with someday, soon. They're really mysterious. The whole material world's mysterious. How to figure out how anything works at all, or why I'm even here. How did I get here in the first place? Stand outside a cricket match or a baseball game and just interview people on the way out and say, how do you think we got here? You probably get a variety of insults. People really don't think about it. But by chanting, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, knowledge will be like there for you, like your wife. And just, it'll open in your life. You'll become cognizant of who you are. You're like waking up from amnesia. So there's this very peaceful feeling we can get by taking some time. I wouldn't say peaceful, because the mind's not necessarily peaceful. When we try to do meditation like that, then we might even notice that the mind is even not very cooperative. I'm being very low-key tonight by saying not very cooperative. I could have used harsher language. And yeah, we might feel a little discouraged, but that's why it's helpful to take instruction from books like the Bhagavad Gita, where it's commonsensical and it lines everything up and says, Krishna says, okay, you're not your body. The mind can be your friend or your enemy, and there is a path that you can follow, a discipline, just like you've followed so many other disciplines in your life, like going to school. You didn't always want to go, but you went anyway because you knew it was for your good in the future, right? And similarly, Krishna points out that if you learn how to develop your consciousness and you get some information from a reasonable source that you can vet, and then you stick to the practice, you'll start to improve yourself. Yourself means your consciousness. And that's the only way to really improve your life, is to improve your consciousness. Because everything's based on our perspective. And our perspective comes through the lens of our minds. And then the second aspect of chanting, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced specifically for homes. He would go home to home, door to door, barefoot. And he was a renunciate, so he didn't keep anything. He just went barefoot, wore some simple cloth, and he would go into a household and bring the family together just like this. Mukund would be there. Do you remember? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 550 years ago? I thought so. And family members and village members would all come sit together, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, now we'll do the mantra together. And this he called Samkirtan. So the word Sam means together, and Kirtan means to sing and glorify the name of God. It's recommended in all scriptures, by the way. So it's a simple universal process. And I recommend both. For your own edification, take time every day to sit and chant. If you don't have beads, you can count on your fingers. But it helps to keep track of how many times you're chanting so you can do it consistently. And then we'll do what you can with your family by sitting in a circle like this and then singing the Hare Krishna mantra a little bit. So let's try that. I'll sing a few introductory mantras and then we can go to the Hare Krishna mantra. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Sri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare. Hari Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sound good, sound good. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Last chance. Thank you for participating in the Yuga Dharma. Right here in Palo Alto. Where else would you go to participate in Yuga Dharma except for Palo Alto? Do we have time for a few questions, or it's getting late at night? Perhaps we should all go home and go to sleep. No? Oh, yeah, all right. Let's have a few questions. Questions are the answer. They're hard, though, right? Just ask a question. You can also bring up anything you heard in the talk, short as it was, that piqued your interest. Yes. We have a microphone, I think. Do we?
Thank you for the beautiful kirtan.
Thank you.
In the introduction, Prabhuji said you ran many successful businesses, so which is that white lotus flowering, I suppose. Can you tell us, how did you bind the spiritual with the material?
Well, I learned something from both sides. I learned a lot from the business that I did. Part of it is that real motivation comes from the spiritual side. I'm finding that even nowadays in corporations, otherwise why do they have speakers like me come in? Because all I talk about is the fact that you're not your body and you get motivated. Well, it's not all I talk about, but we talk about subjects that are generally metaphysical. And I find that people are people everywhere, and we're all spiritual souls and we have a need. And I found that I was able to apply a lot of the principles of the Bhagavad Gita that I learned when I lived as a monk. I mean, we still live very simply, and part of that was just in accepting what came, and that at times when there were reversals, I remember one time, and I think I mentioned this somewhere the other day, when you're doing business, there can be reversals, right? Or does it all go smoothly for everybody? And I had one such reversal that disturbed my mind, and I talked to a friend of mine who was also a devotee and had been in the business longer. And you know how when your mind's disturbed, sometimes you commiserate with people? Have you ever commiserated? Do you know what it means? Sort of complain to somebody who can appreciate what you're going through. it was even more than a complaint. I was really disturbed. And he said one sentence that totally put me back on the right track. He said, well, I guess that proves you're not the supreme controller. And somehow, just hearing that, suddenly, I snapped out of my moroseness for having this uncomfortable situation and was able to just immediately remember, like muscle memory, everything I'd learned from being a monk. And that was, why are you doing this in the first place? You should do it as a service. Don't be attached. And reversals come just as much as windfalls come, and you should take them equally. So just giving a little snapshot, but there's ways in which both my wife and I, she had a more successful business than I did. And we both just saw it as a part of our learning process, because there are ways in which in the lifestyle that we've had together for 37 years now, right? More? 38? 38 years now, this year. We've been able to maintain the same kind of principles that we each individually had living in an ashram. We had similar life stories in that she ran away from home, became a Hare Krishna when she was 16, and so did I. We didn't know each other, but we had similar stories in that way. It was possible back then. We landed on Earth at a good time, the 60s. And so, yeah, living together, doing businesses together, we've maintained our spiritual practices simultaneously. We never gave that up. That part we've kept throughout every single day since we've been in a relationship in what we call the Grahastha ashrama. It's just as much a protected space as being a monk in a monastery, and everything that we've done, we've learned from. And also, I guess part of it is when we hear about the complications of the material world and so forth, when you're interacting with the world, you get to see them more firsthand. That's something I noticed a lot. And part of that had to do with, and I'm sure I would have had to undergo this as a monk also living in an ashram, but the passing away of both my parents that I was attached to, and always wondering, no matter how much I've studied Bhagavad Gita, how would I deal with it? Because I was very attached to them and kept thinking, well, how does it work? And then I got to see how it worked, and it was something that I could process because of studying Bhagavad Gita and living the lifestyle that we've lived and still live. So everything becomes clarified by remembering and applying the principles that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita and employing it in our daily lives. Patience never gets on people's nerves, or being tolerant. People notice that if you've developed even a modicum of it. You were just saying today at your work, you had mentioned a phrase that you had heard me mention once. I heard it from somebody else, but I use it a lot. I live to be corrected. And he was giving a presentation in his corporate, and because of confidentiality rules, I can't say which corporation he works for. That's not true. I can. Anyway, I won't. But he gave a talk, and at the end, he said, "I live to be corrected." And his boss, or one of the executives there, came up to him afterwards and said, "Hey, where'd you get that?" He said, "Oh, yeah, I heard it from this person who, I go and listen to lectures sometimes, and then hear his boss using it next week." And the point is, these principles from Bhagavad Gita, which are high-minded, they don't get old. They actually enhance our lives. And so our integration into the world, which was quite interesting also, just to extend this a little bit. I lived as a brahmachari. I grew up at home, so I was taken care of by my parents quite nicely. And then I moved into an ashram as a monk. At that time, we didn't even have our own clothes. We wore clothes, but we didn't have our own clothes. Have you ever had a situation where you didn't have your own clothes? It's kind of interesting. You don't have anything. I didn't have money. I didn't have my own clothes. So, you know, when you, at the end of the day, you put your clothes in the laundry, they come back, and then they just put them in a stack, and you pick out some clothes. They were nondescript because it was the same kind of, they were non-expressive. There's just saffron cloth, simple stuff. But you weren't even attached to your own clothes. And we didn't have furniture, slept on the floor. And boy, was I happy. I lived like that for 13 years, and I always used to think, why am I so happy? I'm not supposed to be so happy. It was just a naturally happy period in my life being in that situation. When I decided to get married, of course, we've been happily married for 38 years. And I just remember the encumbrance of getting involved, how much paraphernalia it takes to live outside the ashram. First thing I realized is you got to pay for phone service if you're going to have your own. That's before cell phones. And I just remember, like, you got to pay for this to speak of an apartment. And then it went on and on and on. I never thought the list, you're shaking your head, right? That you never thought the list would end of how much, but it was a good thing because I started looking into how to manage all this stuff. And I thought of it as my duty to manage it, be dutiful, how to deal with money. I learned all about that, how to properly be a steward of money and take care of it. It's an energy that's given to you by God. And so we've had really a nice experience, the both of us, she also lived in a very simple way in her early years. Then we were married. We applied the principles throughout, and it's been really good. Now we're, in a different phase of our lives, and we're really happy that we invested our, 2 phases, our youth and our middle age, was that put us now, in the pursuit of purifying consciousness, and there's so many rewards. It's really hard to express what a wonderful life it's been for us, and how we feel now about our lives and the opportunities that we have to just share what we've learned throughout our lives, not in a condescending way at all, but just in a way of appreciating what was given to us. It was kind of an extended answer to a simple question, but I felt it needed a little bit of context. And now we only have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking. Okay, yes. Kennedy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. There we go. There are times in going about the purification process, going through chanting japa and singing kirtan and reading the scripture, where sometimes it feels like my heart is going to break open in a very lovely way, but it can be heavy. Can you speak a little bit on spiritual self-care and spiritual hygiene in that sense?
Well, there's various ways that Krishna talks. I mean, we're holistic. It's not that there's spiritual and material. Actually, everything's spiritual. It all comes from Krishna. And that's part of the realization when I really thought about my body a lot during the pandemic, because I slowed down enough to notice it. Practically, life goes so fast, I barely even noticed my body before, but I started monitoring it, weighing it, seeing how it worked and everything, and I thought, what an amazing machine I've been given as a gift from Krishna to do something amazing. And then in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, take care of it. Don't eat too much, don't eat too little. Just treat it as a gift, and it's a temple. It's a special mechanism to help you as a soul. So really, really take care of yourself sufficiently. Don't overindulge, but don't underindulge in the name of austerity. Take what you need so you can live a very healthy life. And spiritual self-care means, as my spiritual master once said, God helps those who help themselves. And then he said, helping oneself means putting yourself in front of transcendental sound vibration. And I always remember that as the most important kind of self-care, is whatever else is going on in your life, don't cheat yourself of your opportunity to hear, especially from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and chanting Hare Krishna. If you do it every day, then things start to make sense, and you're able to deal with the complexities of life that are naturally there. Otherwise, I remember my doctor, I saw her at Kaiser right after I got back from India in 2020. You remember 2020? You were all here. 2020, it was January, February, just gotten back from our yatra. You know, that was like, there was news that there was some big thing coming on. And I said, so what's the situation? She said, until there's some vaccine, she said, we're sitting ducks. That's an old phrase from hunters, sitting ducks. They're just sitting there ready to get killed. And I always feel like unless I take care of myself spiritually, then I'm a sitting duck, because the material world is nothing to be trifled with. It's very serious business. We have to fortify ourselves carefully. So self-care means on both sides. Take care of your body, your mind, and your soul altogether. That's the instruction given in the Shastra, and it really works. Take time to take care of your body and mind, and also your soul. Okay, one last question, and then we're going to go door to door. Just kidding. Oh, yes.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. It was very inspiring to hear your story and Nirakula Mataji's story. My question is, like how do I form like family bonds or relationships that is spiritually nourishing? I don't see a lot of examples. So would you say that there was like a special arrangement or some sort of destiny that made it happen? And can it happen?
Family bonds or relationship, like which part of your family?
Oh, I mean, like if I'm finding someone for myself as partner, like my paternal family is good. Like my mom and dad are good. I'm happy with them.
That's good. That's a big deal.
Yeah, they've definitely spiritually like nourished me, and we exchange spiritually loving relationships. But I don't know what am I going to enter in my future. Like even like professional environments, like they're going to test my patience. Like starting from like even if I bring like lunch, like, oh, you don't eat meat, or like, you know, there's like so many things that are going on. So there is like testing phase in every aspect of my life. And then bonds such as like life partners, like I think they are very crucial. They can like make or break you or break me. So I'm trying to understand if whether there is any kind of effort or consideration that I put on my part, or will the arrangements automatically happen if I have the correct desire?
Yeah, take care of yourself. And there's an old admonition just in being in a relationship, I'll take care of me for you. If you'll take care of you for me, we have to take care of ourselves. And generally, when we're whole and balanced and we have a life, that is, we can stand on our own 2 feet spiritually, and we're taking care of ourselves, we become a worthy kind of partner. It's not so easy, although, you know, I paint a rosy picture. It has been pretty rosy, actually, I have to say. But still, it's not child's play to live with a partner for many, many years.
Yeah.
You really have to have a higher cause to do it.
Yeah.
And you also have to apply principles of communication and putting the other person first and things like that. So if everything works well or the best possible, if you
Okay.
take care of yourself in the ways we were just talking about, and if you don't expect that somebody's going to come and complete you, but you'll be able to have mutual service for one another in a relationship with a common goal, then that can work. And, you know, it's different for different people. We have, like, we know some devotees who are God brothers, God sisters, who some of them had really good relationships, some of them haven't. Some of them have been in long relationships, but they've been difficult. Some found relationships much later in life, so there's no stereotype. But the one common theme is that if you're doing it for the right reasons,
Yeah.
and you're preparing yourself, and this is just a general principle that if you're waiting for something or to move into another position and it hasn't presented itself to you yet, sort of abstract language, prepare yourself. Be in the mode of preparation. Because there's lots of, not because, I'll just say there are various instances in the Srimad Bhagavatam when devotees go to Krishna and they say, can you help? And you say, not right now. You need to do this and this and that first, like churning in the milk ocean, right? He said, timing isn't right. Everything will come in due course of time if you keep yourself in good order. And also, yeah, you could take a little help from your friends. For instance, if you want a life partner, it's nice if you communicate that to others who can help, and then take a little bit of guidance or, you know, help in that matter also. Just don't fend for yourself. That can be helpful also. I did that. My friends introduced me to Nirkula, and we even had a chaperone. How old are you? So, yeah, that was a thing. It worked out pretty well.
Thank you, Maharaj.
General advice. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Jai Madhava Prabhu, for inviting us into your beautiful home here in Palo Alto. I don't think there's a more pristine suburban neighborhood on the face of the planet than Palo Alto. It doesn't get any more, like, shabby chic than this. And this has just been such a vibrant place for all of us. So thank you to you, Pavani Bhakti, Anshu, Anushri, for inviting us all into your beautiful space here. And thank you, everybody, for coming. It's just really nice. Sorry I went on a little longer today, but separation anxiety, FOMO, whatever it is. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vaisheshika Das, for joining us this evening. If anyone enjoyed the talk, Vaisheshika Das just released a new book, The 4 Questions, which is here. You can purchase a copy, and if you're lucky, he may sign it for you. Did everyone enjoy the talk tonight? Yeah. Let's give another hand for our guest speaker, Vaisheshika Das.
Thank you
you
so
all.
much for coming. Thank you so much for coming, Maharaj. And I just want to thank my cooks today. Lekha is sitting over there, who's looking for a life partner. So you all can see she's a good cook, and actually, yeah, she never misses to contact me. Actually, even though I don't, whenever I even don't have a program, she'll contact me. Am I cooking? to this Friday. So she's very, very committed and she wants to do this service. So I'm so grateful to her. And then Yasmin, she stuck up with us for almost 3 or 4 years now. And whenever she's free, she comes. And she has a lot of things going on in her life and a lot of people that she takes care of, and her parents and everything, but she always comes. I really, really appreciate, and she gets like food every time she comes. Yasmin. So thank you, Yasmin. And where is Neha? I think Neha, she left. And Bhumika, where is Bhumika? Namsmaran's wife. Where are you? She also helped me for cooking today, so thank you so much. Am I missing anybody? I think I covered everyone, right? Yeah. And me, yeah. And, oh yeah, Charu got some fruits, which I'm going to give to Guruma when she leaves, so she wants to give you some fruits. And I want to also inform you all that yesterday was Mother Nirakula's birthday, so please, we are very grateful that she's here on this time. And she's a pillar, actually, for all of us. And without her, we don't know how our life will be and where we will be. Even I feel like where Guru Maharaj will be. But so yeah, please, thank you so much for being you and blessing us and giving us your association. And I also want to share that she shared her birthday with Shweta. Shweta, where are you? Shweta. Shweta's birthday was also yesterday. So happy birthday, and please. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And also I want to thank Eka Chakra, because every time we do this program, when Maharaj is not there, it's Eka Chakra who keeps the vibration going for us, and he does such an excellent job with our program. So especially thank to you for always coming here. Hare Krishna. Thank you.